Hey folks, welcome back to another enthralling episode of Whining About Pest Control. I am Shelby Hartzer of 360 Pest Consulting, in case you're just joining us here. It's getting a little chilly out there. It's November. A lot of parts of the country are getting a little cool, and that means pests want in. So today we're going to whine about exclusion, and in honor of exclusion, I have an educated guess Chardonnay, because sometimes we have to make a guess, so cheers. Okay. Just like sanitation, exclusion is one of those tenets of pest control, particularly in preventing pest issues. Just seal up the structure and all your problems are fixed. Wave that magic wand. Finding each and every little opening around a structure, particularly big structures, is impossible. There's always going to be areas you can't see, doors opening, doors closing, people coming and going, and all of this creates openings. So it's hopeless. Let's just spray and pray and move on, right? Thanks for attending my TED Talk. Goodbye. No, wrong. Let the whining begin here. It is impossible to have that 100% perfect exclusion. And sometimes, yes, it's the customer's fault. But that doesn't mean we can't do anything. There are a couple ways to view exclusion and keeping those pests out. It's often pretty obvious the entry point that the pests are going to get in at. Rats aren't going through a solid brick wall to get into a warehouse. They're going to find a door or a vent. Ants aren't going to climb 60 stories of a building to get into an office. They're going to find that small opening at ground level, maybe a window, space around an HVAC unit. So focusing on those most common and likely access points means getting the majority of what may want to come in. Okay, the customer can't or won't seal up? Fine. You know where those openings are, so those are your high-risk areas. Put lots of control measures in those areas. Just because a door won't be sealed for a while doesn't mean you can't put out a bunch of extra snap traps to keep the mice down. If my wine is under threat from my little sister coming over, I'm going to electrify that door and put a bunch of bear traps out. Sometimes those entry points are much more hidden though. I had carpenter ants in my kitchen last year and I followed that little trail to where it disappeared under a door jamb. No idea where they were coming from, especially since that door was almost exactly in the middle of my house. So I baited it, let the insects do the work of carrying the bait back to all their little friends. Then I can seal up that area so they don't get back in my kitchen. That doesn't stop them from going into other areas from where they originally got in, but stops them from there. One thing we don't think about as often when we're thinking about sealing is sealing the inside. We think of exclusion as keeping the outside out, but what if we have a large facility? They're having a problem with cockroaches. Since we know those cockroaches are in the break room, we can seal the break room doors, any openings that lead out to the manufacturing area. That keeps those cockroaches contained. It's easier to treat. It's like locking up my wine cellar so the rest of my family can't get in there. And that brings up a really good point too, that we want to do that exclusion after the pests are gone, for the most part. If I had sealed up that door jamb before getting rid of the ants, they probably just would have kind of spread out, and it may have been a lot harder to get rid of them then. If we have mice in the attic, we don't want to seal up the attic and force them down into the house where they can potentially find new areas to infest. Now, we have covered seasonal invaders in previous episodes, and that deals with exclusion too, so feel free to go back and watch those. Sealing can also help with retaining the heat in the winter or retaining the cold in the summer. That can lower utility bills, and that might get the customer to pitch in a little bit more. But until then, go have a glass, bolt the doors to keep those wine-stealing siblings out, and whine to me about your tough exclusion issues, because I might be able to help. Like and follow and share with all your relations and rivals, and cheers to enthralling exclusion opportunities.